Okay, so those notes. Let's start with the bass riff. Well, to begin with, the sub always follows the bass. Otherwise, you're going to have something really messy going on. So if we have a look at the bass riff, we have here, it's actually these 4 different sections is the main riff. It's all on F sharp minor for the majority, which is the root note of the whole song. You just get a feel for what the root note is. It's what the song tends to return to. And then it plays with this second here in the minor key and the third as well. You can see here it goes down, but then you've got the second and third as well for that little part of the riff at the end. That just gives it this really dark minor feel. Then later on, in the second verse, if we can find it, here it is, it just hits the octave as well. Just for a bit of variety, and gives a nice funky feel since they're on the offbeat. And then we've got this polyrhythm that I mentioned, which is something I really like. Now a polyrhythm is when you've got one time signature playing over another time signature. Now take a listen to the polyrhythm. You could hear there that it feels like it's kind of rolling and it doesn't quite fit, but that gives this awesome, cool feel. Now what it is, if we zoom right in and open it up, our riff is actually in the time signature 11/16, nice and natural there, over a 4/4 beat. If we have a listen to the 11/16 bit on its own, I've looped it here conveniently for us. You can hear how disjointed that sounds. And so when we don't loop it, we just get that disjointed feel, but maintain the kind of danciness of the song. And then you have to do that little fill at the end there in order to make it roll round. But yeah, I just love those polyrhythms. Really good fun to play with. Then we've got the bass lead chord. Now this is a bit complicated, even though it doesn't seem it, at least when trying to explain it. Remember, we just added the extra synth at the top, which is 4 semitones above the bass. Now what this comes down to, it's essentially a chord progression of major third chords. Because it's 4 semitones up, that ends up making it a major third in the F sharp key. But the chord progression is discerned from the minor key riff that the bass initially played, which gives it this weird feel to this section. Now since the bass is so far in the frequency spectrum from the lead, it allows the bass to sound minor and the lead to sound major without the two sounding horribly dissonant, since they aren't very close to each other. Instead, it just results in this upbeat, happy overall feel, yet cool and dark undertone. So now if we head over to the breakout to have a look there, we've got this lead pad, if we open up these notes. Again, this is a chord progression of thirds, but it goes from major thirds to a minor third here. And that switch from major to minor gives this uplifting and yet tense emotive feel. Then we've got this little fill there, playing off the notes. And that really shows how it can be a lead as well as this kind of pad sound. Then the second time round, it goes all the way up here to the 7th in the key, which is, as you can see, 1 semitone away from the root note of F sharp. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, semitones are ridiculously powerful, emotional, tense notes to be playing around with. So that's why that also sounds really nice when it hits the top note there. Just so you know, I didn't think about this all logically when I started making these notes. I just played around with it until I got a feel for it. But it is cool to find out why these notes work and what they are. Then, if we have a look at the pad, square pad. Now this one's quite interesting. It's either a minor third or a major third, depending on the place in the song. See where it's got a major feel? I've given it that major third. However, if you listen here, it's a minor third. If we solo it out, we can really hear that as the change happens from the drop to the kind of chorus section. This just really assists in defining whether the section has a minor feel or a major feel to it, and it emphasizes those switches. Also, the rhythms of these, they always hit in when the bass note stops playing. Which really makes things roll round, and everything feels very filled out. It's kind of like a call and response. Heading back to the breakout, we've got our ARP here, which is very similar to the pad again. we've got it starting on our root note, but it starts on the major third F sharp of the root note, and then it goes to a minor third of this B flat minor. Then the second time round, it hits the 7th in the key, just like it did in the pad. You can hear this one added quite a bit of tension as well, this C note, which isn't in the key of F sharp major, which is what we were playing here, which just adds that tension since it really wants to go to this C sharp, so that really emphasizes that alternating of the keys. Then if we take a look at the bass pad, the final melodic element, this is just playing an inverted version of the chord progression we've been talking about, this time starting on the B flat, where the other ones tend to end up, then going down to the G sharp, and instead of hitting the F sharp straight away, it goes to the F for added tension, which is a leading note since it really wants to lead into the F sharp. Then I'm considerate and let it do so, and go all the way back up to the B flat like you'd expect. So it feels kind of resolved at the end there. Now the drums are basically 4 on the floor throughout, so nothing too interesting there. Barring a few fills we've got. Nothing spectacular, except for this interesting little fill we've got going on with the polyrhythm I discussed. If you can see here, those snares just really accent that part where it rolls round. So there we've discussed both the arrangement and the notes that I've picked. Join me tomorrow for day 7, where I'll show you mixing and mastering, and then play the final finished 7-day song. Cheers for watching, and I'll see ya!